Oh no! It says my orientation is locked and I can't rotate my device. Well, I hate doing it in portrait. Sorry guys. Sorry for all the future people in the world who are going to watch this video on lameness in bulls. I tried really hard to switch it so I could be in landscape, but now you have to watch me with black bars on either side of you. I don't know why. When I switch it, it says that it's locked. It says I cannot physically, well, I can physically go like this, but it doesn't work. Okay, today I was out semen testing, so I just wanted to talk about lameness in bulls because one of the bulls that we looked at had foot rot. And he did not actually have foot rot. He had a quarter crack or a sand crack, which is basically a vertical crack going from the coronet, so like the fleshy part of the hoof cracking down into the hoof itself, and that was infected. So we have an old adage that we say, if you have to treat something for foot rot more than once, it's probably not foot rot. And bulls absolutely do get foot rot. There's no question at all. But a lot of the times there's a lot of other things that can happen with these bulls. So my general recommendation is be sure that it's foot rot before you treat for foot rot. And if you're not sure at all, take a very close look. Is like I said, the sand crack. It could also potentially be foot rot. It could be a corn or what is usually just this benign keratinous tumor, for the lack of a better word. Can be a corn. Sole ulcer. You can also have sole abscesses, and a lot of times you can even just have something that's functionally wrong. I've seen rocks, just a rock that's wedged. Oh, I'm sorry, my internet's so bad. You could have a rock that is just wedged in between the toes, nails, baler twine, wire, anything that's there. So you don't necessarily need to be a veterinarian to be able to diagnose these things. So the standard thing though, because these bulls are out on pasture and they're very hard to deal with, they're large, and even if you are a good cowboy that can rope a bull down, that it can be challenging to take a really, really good look at their feet. But I really, really, really implore you guys to try as hard as possible before treating with an antibiotic indiscriminately to try to look at those feet before you just hit them with antibiotics. But this is what usually happens. Comes up lame out on pasture during breeding season, and the rancher or the farmer's first inclination is to treat for foot rot. There's a lot of different antibiotics that are used. Some have merit and some don't. And also just the route of administration. So dart guns, if you guys have seen these dart guns, there's various kinds. There's crossbow kinds. There is new darts, which is like this pneumatic dart system. There's poles, like treatment poles, that you can put antibiotics in and get close to the animal and then stick it in their neck, and it provides a blast of antibiotics. The challenge with those is dosage and also cost. So a lot of the cheaper antibiotics like penicillin and tetracyclines, they require a very high volume per unit of weight. So sometimes these animals could get up to 100 milliliters, and it's logistically extremely challenging to get that much in. With the new darts, the largest dart size they have is 10 milliliters, which really ends up causing you the inability to be able to pick the appropriate antibiotic, because you're picking something that is low volume per hundredweight. Things like Xanel at 1 mil per hundredweight would be common. Micatil would also be common, I've heard. Things like Draxxin and Zuprevo, even though Draxxin does have a foot rot label claim, sometimes using a macrolide or an antibiotic in that family isn't always prudent antimicrobial usage. But that said, you need to get them treated, and antibiotics is often the first line. But remember, if you do not have a response to that antibiotic, it likely wasn't foot rot in the first place. Then you also have to think about anti-inflammatories. So you have your steroids like dexamethasone, or your non-steroidal anti-inflammatories like Banamine or Medicam. Those ones you have to use cautiously, because with steroids, it can cause a disruption of spermatogenesis, and it can really decrease their fertility. And if they're out on pasture, they need to be breeding, so they have to have great fertility. So stay away from the steroids, the steroids like dexamethasone when you're treating bulls. And if you are going to provide an anti-inflammatory painkiller, please use Medicam or Banamine. Medicam is probably a little more logistically feasible to use when it is out on pasture, just because it's a lower volume per hundredweight, and also the route of administration is more forgiving. After that, it just comes down to management. So selecting for great genetics, making sure that your bull's genetics are optimal, that you don't have this long line of hoof issues, corkscrew claws, stuff like that. Be very diligent on sire selection and also culling during semen test when you can actually make that decision. And then there's the feed related component as well. There's things that you can do to help support a good hoof health. That's hard to say. Hoof-hearted. Supporting good hoof health by providing micronutrients and vitamins to them. Things like biotin and zinc have been shown to improve overall hoof health. And then just preventative maintenance. I'm not against hoof trimming in herd bulls. Some people are. They say if you have to trim the bull, then they should be culled. But that's not necessarily the case. It's not always the genetics fault why their feet are messed up. It's just making sure that you're doing routine maintenance and making sure they're not going out with bad feet to begin with. And then also the foot rot vaccine. So there is some foot rot vaccines available. If you go with evidence-based medicine, there's never been a study on herd bulls that show that it does prevent foot rot. Some guys choose to use it, and anecdotally they like it. To get a bull on the foot rot vaccine program, most of the time you would need to give 2 doses in naive animals, so animals that have never seen that vaccine, about 3 weeks apart prior to breeding season, and then an annual revaccination every year prior to breeding season as well. But like I said, there is no great evidence that shows that it actually prevents foot rot. But what the, I guess, conventional wisdom says that maybe it doesn't prevent foot rot, but it lessens the clinical signs and gets those bulls back breeding a little quicker. Okay, that is it. I'm home. That was on my mind. Lameness in bulls. Just check their feet. As best as you can, check their feet before initiating treatment. If you are unsure, call your cow vet. Just text me a picture. I always get texts all the time. Okay, we'll see you guys. I'll be editing another vlog tonight. My camera is still broke. I've been shooting everything on my cell phone and my GoPro. This vlogging stuff is really hard on equipment. I think Diana would kill me if I told her how much money I've spent on cameras and drones and laptops in the last 2 years, but it's worth it. It's absolutely worth it. I'm sure it'll pay off one day. Okay, see you guys.